Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today we're going to be talking about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in our recap series. Really good year for them. Obviously, a little bit of a disappointment if you're a Notre Dame fan, but still 10-win season. Got to a respectable bowl game, big-time bowl win against Oregon State. But before we get into any of the football talk, as always, if you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss an upload. We do have our next live show coming Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want a chance to win this Tim Tebow signed Heisman jersey for our 1,000 subscriber giveaway, be sure to show up and show out for that during the live show. But, Dad, how do you feel about Notre Dame and how their season kind of went?
This was a season really of highs and lows with them. There were points and times where they looked like they were going to be really good. And Sam Hartman looked like he was an elite quarterback. And then there were times where it just didn't look like it was great. There's games that they should have won. Like you suspect that Notre Dame is supposed to beat Louisville. The Ohio State and Clemson game, and I know we talked about this in the preview, those games are games that could have went either way. But there's other games they just did not look great. And then there's games like that USC game, that Pitt game, where they look dominant. They look like a top 4 team. This was really a season of highs and lows. Sam Hartman looked good at points, looked bad at points, didn't seem to have some chemistry at points. The biggest concern for them has to be, while Estime did a great job running the ball over 1,300 yards, they did not have a primary receiver really step up. Their top receiver only had less than 500 yards. It's hard to win when you don't have a good passing game in college football nowadays, unless you're Army or Navy. So not having a receiver over 500 yards, not having a true number one, I think hurt them quite a bit. Estime did his part. And like I said, Sam Hartman was good, but not great. I mean, when you're talking about 2,689 yards, 24 touchdowns, but 8 interceptions, this is a in-the-trenches team, but Sam Hartman is an air it out, spread them out kind of guy, or at least he was at Wake Forest. So like I said, there's probably some disappointment, but there's probably some optimism. 10-3 is never anything to sneeze at. That's a good college football season. But I think Notre Dame fans, this Notre Dame team, when you heard and when we knew Sam Hartman was going there, they probably expected a little bit more. What's your thoughts?
So, in my opinion, obviously Notre Dame had a really good year this year, 10-3. That's really good for any program outside of obviously like the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world, but still a really good season. We talked about the Ohio State loss, which came down to the wire. We talked about the Clemson loss, which came down to the wire. The Louisville game really didn't come down to the wire. Louisville really controlled the game throughout, but that was kind of a one-off. Obviously, you lose that game, and Louisville ended up going to the ACC title game. You talked a little bit about the receiving core. I agree with you. I do think they didn't really have that guy. It kind of is a little bit, similar to Clemson's situation as far as having really good running backs and not having that standout number one receiver, the number one option on the outside. Sam Hartman, in my opinion, is a top 5 quarterback in college football this past season. So I thought that he would be able to kind of elevate the receivers around him. He was, previously at Wake Forest that didn't have any 4- and 5-star guys. So to see him go to Notre Dame, and I wouldn't say struggle, but in the games where they needed that, 5th-year quarterback, that veteran quarterback, he kind of didn't really show up. And that sounds a bit harsh. So I don't mean it to be, in that, way or that, that, I guess, direction. But at the end of the day, you expect a guy like him to win with that offensive line he had, with the running back like Estime. Estime had 18 touchdowns and, over the century mark when you're talking, or over the 1,000-yard mark, when we're talking about total rushing yards. We saw him in person against Clemson in Death Valley. He was a monster to bring down, and that's against a top 5 to 10 defense in Clemson. So you can only imagine what he was doing against the other teams that he was playing against. So I think obviously they're trying to patch up the holes that they're going to lose. They bring over Riley Leonard in the portal. They bring over Bo Collins from Clemson, obviously, to kind of be that number one guy. I would say realistically.
In Bo Collins. Do you think is Bo Collins a number one receiver?
So I think he can be. I think to start off the year, he was the number one guy for Clemson. And then like Tyler Brown started coming on, Antonio Williams. We're not going to talk a bunch about Clemson. We already did the recap, but I think he could be the guy for them. He's a big body receiver. They obviously lost Tobias Merriweather. They lost Chris Tyree. So you're losing some of that offensive production as it is. So bringing Bo Collins over is going to help them out. I haven't looked too much into their recruiting class in 2023. So, I mean, I'm sure Notre Dame fans, Guinea Pig, Michael Campbell, let us know about your guys' recruiting class, what receivers you're bringing over or bringing up, I would say. But again, I think this is a successful season for Notre Dame. They didn't make the playoffs, but it's still a really good year. 10 wins is solid for any program. Like I said, obviously Marcus Freeman is still trying to, get his program where he wants it to be. This is what, his second or third year coaching them.
I think this is his second, so he's going into his third.
Yeah, so all of these guys are not his recruits, so let's keep that in mind. He's still kind of building the foundation and the building blocks for his team. But I think this is a good year, like I said. But I will say this: the only kind of negative knock I have for Notre Dame this year is the fact that Sam Hartman went to Notre Dame to be in the playoffs, to be in the spotlight, and that didn't come into fruition. Their playoff hopes was really shattered midway through the season with that second loss to Louisville. So I would say that's the kind of only negative stain, is that Sam Hartman went to a big time school. He left Wake Forest, which he was putting up gaudy numbers. I don't remember what Wake Forest record was last year, but I don't think it was terrible. I think they had at least 8 or 9 wins. So he didn't even really elevate himself to a team that could have been a national contender. Yes, they were in the top 10 at one point during the year, but at the end of the season, you had 3 regular season losses. You ended up 9-3. So it wasn't the end outcome or the end goal for Sam Hartman. I don't know how much he boosted his draft stock this year, because I don't think, in all honesty, he did. He's going to the draft, and I don't think anybody has talked about Sam Hartman when we're talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about Jane Daniels, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Bo Nix. No one has talked about Sam Hartman, and I'm a big fan of Sam Hartman. Obviously, I'm an ACC guy, so I've watched him the last 4 to 5 seasons. So I don't know why people aren't giving him that credit. Maybe it's because he didn't, show he could elevate other guys, and it was also the offensive style that Notre Dame runs. But I think he was a hell of a college quarterback, obviously. I think he broke the ACC record for total touchdowns in the ACC. So he's going to be cemented in history in the ACC. But it just that's the only negative stain I have for Notre Dame this year, is I would have liked them to try to I'm not saying make the playoffs, but you beat a team like Clemson, who was down this year. Beat a team like Louisville, who wasn't as good, as talented as you. Obviously, the the Ohio State team is a good team, so I'm not saying you should have beat them. They were a really good team, but I think you had the ability to beat Louisville and Clemson at worst. So I think they should have been able to win one of those games just to put themselves in position to kind of contend for that third and fourth spot that we saw Florida State give up heading into the final rankings.
Yeah, so my concerns for the future of them is that they relied so much on Estime, and Estime obviously left in the draft. So really, who's going to pick up that production? Now, they do have some options. Jeremiah Love did get some carries and seemed to play pretty well. But I don't know that I put him in the same vein as Estime, as a bell cow. Estime was a big bowling ball. I don't know if I put him in that same vein, that he can be that same kind of guy. And then, if that is not the case, then you have to go back to relying on that passing game. And as we mentioned, Riley Leonard coming over. But do you have the receivers, right? So that's why I asked about Bo Collins. If it's not Bo Collins, if Bo Collins is not a true number one, and is not that guy, it's really who then? Who becomes that guy? Is it going to be Jaden Greathouse? I don't know that I see that guy on this roster with their turnover. So really, it's almost a Bo Collins has to be that guy, or else they're going to have some problems, because off the top of my head, right now, this offense no longer has anybody that scares me. Like I said, Jane Love is good, but this is a guy who rushed for less than 400 yards last year.
Jeremiah Love.
I said, I'm saying Jeremiah Love. But this is a guy who rushed for less than 400 yards last year. So who is the guy that you really have to game plan for? Again, we know Riley Leonard is going to be good, but I think they have to have somebody step up in that receiving game, because like I said, I don't think you have that estimate that you can just lean on to produce offense.
So in the bowl game, they did use 2 backs, Jeremiah Love. They used Jadarian Prince as well, or Jadarian Price. I'm sorry. He went over 100 yards in that game. Not sure if he can sustain that throughout the year. I don't think either of them can really match what estimated. Obviously, you had Jordan Faison. He was a true freshman. He played well in the bowl game as well. Again, it's the bowl game against an Oregon State team who was completely depleted, no head coach, obviously no DJU, losing a lot of players. So I'm not going to put too much stock into that game, but we did see some glimpses of some of the younger guys. So again, Notre Dame fans, let us know in the comment section. You guys obviously going to know way more about this team than we do. So let us know, is there anybody you're looking forward to seeing this next year to step up with Riley Leonard and Bo Collins? because there could be a guy that we're not talking about, obviously.
I mean, so they do got Mitchell Evans, the tight end. He was their number one tight end last year. But again, we're talking about less than 450 yards. But he's returning, and I think I can see him stepping up production. But I don't know, like I said, that he's going to replace the production that they've lost.
Yeah, definitely. But as always, if you guys are new to the channel, please do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And again, if you want a chance to win the signed Heisman Tim Tebow jersey, please show up to the live show on Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You have to be there to try to win the jersey. We've just hit 1,000 subscribers, so please continue to keep hitting that subscribe button for us. Keep climbing up the YouTube numbers, helping us spread to new people through the algorithm. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.